Hey guys, this is Gavin Rossi from OPRAmachine.com, and in this webcast I wanted to give you an overview of how you can use OPRAmachine to obtain court records when state and local governmental entities are involved in litigation. So just a little bit of a backstory to this. The reason why you might want to use OPRAmachine to request court records about be it your town, your local MUA, water department, your county freeholder board, is oftentimes public entities get tied up with litigation. And it could have impacts in terms of, say if it's a self-insured entity, they might be paying out their own settlements, or if they're sued by a worker, be it sexual harassment or something of that nature, they end up causing some sort of a joint insurance fund to have to cough up these settlement payments instead. So oftentimes these types of litigation are of significant interest to taxpayers and other stakeholders involved in the political process. So traditionally, the way people went about going to get court records was directly from the New Jersey judiciary. And the issues with the New Jersey judiciary systems is their current database, their ACMS public database for finding cases, it's pretty inconvenient. I'm pulling it up right now, and it really is a relic from a different era in computing. It's tied into the old-style mainframe that they use, but the old-school way of going through and looking for cases, say for last name, we would put in township, and then we'll click that button, and you can see it really does just take its time to load on up. And if we were to go, say for this lawsuit against Aberdeen here, we would click this, and you can see it really is just a clunky way of navigating this system. But one way of finding out case information is through this ACMS public access system. The most important elements of the case that you're going to want to get if you want to open the documents is you want the case title, which is the caption. It's basically just who is suing who. And then the county it was filed in, because it's always abbreviated to the first three letters for state docket numbers, and then the final docket number. So the L signifies that it was filed in the law division of the county superior court, and that's the case number. And then the last two digits are self-explanatory, obviously the year that it was filed. So if you can get that essential bit of information, again, the case title, county it was filed in, and the docket number, that should be suitable enough to form an OPRA request with. And I'm going to go through some examples of how people have requested court records using information like this. But before we do that, I'm going to show you one more way that you can gain access to some of the court information. So the other way of doing that is by going through the New Jersey Superior Court's civil motion calendar that's online. And the reason I prefer doing this is I find it to be a little bit more user-friendly. You don't have to go and solve a CAPTCHA in order to get through. So, for example, if we were to just go here and pick a venue, we would just pick a county. So in this case, I'm going to go to Ocean County. And at this juncture, you could choose how you want to fill it out. So like if you want to get a listing of all cases that are represented by a certain law firm or an attorney, you can type in their information over here. If you want to restrict it to a certain date, you can do it here. If you want to restrict it to cases before a certain judge, you can do it through here. But what I would recommend is, since we're using OPRA, the Open Public Records Act, to obtain these documents, the best thing you could do is you want to make sure you are looking up entities that you can OPRA the case documents from. So say if it's a township or municipal government that got sued, you could OPRA the case documents from them. If, say, it was your neighbor that got involved in a car accident and he was just suing the other private individual that was involved in that car crash, then, that private individual, unless they're acting in some official capacity as a governmental employee, it's my personal opinion that you wouldn't be able to OPRA anything like that, because the courts themselves are not subject to OPRA. They have their own, you have to fill out paper forms and fax stuff or bring it in person or something of that nature. And it's more burdensome, and you don't have as many rights as OPRA. So that aside, if you wanted to look up, say, a town that got sued using this motion calendar, I would just go into company here and I would type town, hit submit, and we can see all these lawsuits now that are filed against Ocean County municipalities and are still active. So if you wanted to go into other towns, or other counties, excuse me, you could do the same thing for Monmouth County, Atlantic County, or what have you, and all of that good stuff. So say if you see one of these cases that sticks out and that you find interesting, it would be the same procedure. You could either just take the docket number right here, so say Michael McHale versus Township of Lacey. I know that case just settled. The docket number would be OCN-L-002553-17, and then you could just copy and paste the caption, and you could go right into OPRAmachine and then go and file an OPRA request and say, hey, Lacey Township, I would like a copy of this complaint and a copy of the settlement agreement or what have you. So what I want to do at this point is I'm going to show you actually some of the examples, and you can base your requests just right off of these other example requests that were already done through OPRAmachine. So the most recent one was Mr. Houlihan here. He filed this request with the city of Northfield, and he just asked for a records requested, a copy of the civil lawsuit complaint. That's the complaint is always the first document in the lawsuit, so that's a good thing to ask for. So he said complaint, William Ward versus City of Northfield, Atlantic County Superior Court, docket number L001028. So that was all he asked for, and he's waiting to hear back. So that should be enough to get a copy of that complaint. So the next one is, this one was against the Brick Housing Authority. After I heard about this, I did this request myself, actually. And this was for Anthony Matthews, who used to work at the Housing Authority. And I asked for a copy of the complaint served on the Brick Township Housing Authority in the lawsuit filed earlier in 2017 by the authority's former Assistant Executive Director, Anthony Matthews. And then I said also, please copy any tort claims. A tort claim is something that's a precursor to a lawsuit. They say stuff in there like the amount of damages and some of the specifics. They can give some good backstory, so you could ask for that too. And then I said copy of the answer or dispositive motion filed on behalf of the Brick Township Housing Authority in response to the lawsuit filed by Mr. Matthews. And then I also said copies of all correspondence, including any draft settlement agreements between the Housing Authority and Mr. Matthews or his co-counsel, or his counsel, regarding the lawsuit. And then I got the documents, and the documents are all up on OPRAmachine. And, this is the type of stuff you would expect to get if you were asking for, these various legal documents. And, you can go all through them and see up on the site. Similarly, I did this in Monmouth County. There was a lawsuit against the Wall Township Police Department, and I asked for the copy of the lawsuit. I identified it with the caption. I gave the docket number, and then I asked for any answer if the town may have filed, and then I asked for any settlement agreement if there was one that was executed. So they acknowledged the request. We go back down, and then they give me the document. There's their cover letter, and this is the whole lawsuit from this complaint, and this is all on there now on OPRAmachine if anybody else wants to view it. In some requests, other people asked for just the settlement agreements. They didn't ask for the complaints or anything. Like if they knew the case already settled, they just scrolled down, and in this case, the clerk gave them both the resolution approving the settlement and the settlement agreement itself, and this was for the Mendham and the Mendham Township Police Department. And all of this is up there if anybody would like to see it. Another example is an anonymous requester filed a request with the Sheriff's Department of Ocean County, and they asked for this settlement from Lori Cahill. She was a former lieutenant from this department, and this settlement agreement was for $300,000, and that was to resolve a whistleblower lawsuit that she filed against her former employer, and that got transferred out to Monmouth County Superior Court. So this anonymous OPRA request filer was interested in seeing this, and I think it's interesting for the taxpayers to see because, since such a substantial sum of money, $300,000, was paid, and there hasn't been any press coverage of this settlement to follow up with the other mainstream media outlets. I think it's important for the public to be able to see, where their taxpayer dollars are going. So I think these types of requests are a good thing to do for OPRAmachine. If you, as a member of the public, are interested in seeing these types of settlements or case documents, or any of that. So, just to conclude the procedure, if you're interested in obtaining court documents, you can request them from public entities that are involved in this litigation, and they will provide them to you. You can ask for any sort of active or settled case. You can get the settlement agreements or court documents, and the advantage of getting it through OPRAmachine and through the Open Public Records Act in 99% of the cases, since we are bypassing the New Jersey court system, we don't have to pay any fees or deal with their process that just does not have as many protections to the requester as OPRA and the Open Public Records Act does. So I hope you found this video useful. If there's any future topics that you would like me to cover on these webcasts to make OPRAmachine more educational for the users,